Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I am Andrew Musgrove, and if you've had fun over the last 2 weeks celebrating Newcastle United's Carabao Cup victory, and then we're on the streets of Tyneside watching the players and staff come by with it, then I'm going to say that your week's going to get even better because, ladies and gents, Sam Milner is back on the Everything is Black and White podcast. There's the round of applause. I haven't got the sound effects. The budget doesn't quite stretch to that. Sam, welcome back. Have you missed it?
Um, I, I don't know. I mean, I've been I've been around. I've been here. You've just completely blanked me since the cup win. But yeah, what a few weeks it's been. It's been incredible. Just extraordinary history making, history breaking. Just on a crest of a wave, and we were backing it up as well with a hard fought win on Wednesday night as well, which I was there for, thankfully, because I wasn't there for the town more, or well, I was in the vicinity of Wembley when we won, but I wasn't in the ground, unfortunately. There was Pat Six Mags out there, but yeah, what a few weeks it's been. Phenomenal. I'll take you on a tour actually of my living room. This is brilliant for audio listeners, but look at this, what I've ordered here. Hello. The
How on
wonderful.
earth have you got the sign off from your missus to have that alongside pictures of your kids? Just for those listening on
It's
audio, just explain what it is.
it's a wonderfully huge canvas of the trophy lift that happened on the pitch for the Carabao Cup winning thing. And in answer to your question, it is better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
He has actually got that hung
In
up, ladies
things
and
like
gents.
that, not in all cases. I don't want to be. I don't want to make that a sweeping generalisation. But in this case, yes, it's better to ask for forgiveness than
I mean,
permission.
that's not hung up in like one of them kind of games rooms or the bars
No.
that you see sometimes people build. That is hung up in the
Yes.
center of your living room next to pictures of your kids. I mean, that says a lot, Sam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm sure your missus is over the moon with that. Yeah.
No.
Well, we'll not get into that. We'll not get into that. I haven't been blanking you. It's just been a very, very busy couple of weeks, but it has
It
been a
has.
pleasure to cover Newcastle United, and it's not lost to me how privileged in a privileged position I am. But it is great to see you back on the show, and we're going to talk about Sam. Probably the next big bit of news that we're all waiting on. We were waiting for it at the turn of the year. Then it's been pushed back, and then it was the cup final, and nothing was really going to come out, at least officially, from the club on St James's Park. Are they going to stay? Are they going to go? Lots of reports on what's going to happen. Lots of various claims, which we will get into. But Sam, on that question, first and foremost, St James's Park, stay or go?
It's a tough one. There's no wrong or right answer, I suppose. If in an ideal world, logistically, we were able to kind of make St James's Park into a 70 odd thousand seater stadium, I would love to stay there. Um, I knew that this was sort of coming, and looking around on Wednesday when I was there for Brentford and going, just God, the place is so special. It really is. God, it's my favourite place in the world. Um, it's just a testament to just how phenomenal the city is to have that as its centerpiece and our fantastic fan base. And yeah, I'd love for us to stay, but it is becoming more and more evident, I guess, that we will be leaving. Which I have sort of mixed feelings about. I'm not totally for leaving, and I'm not totally against leaving to the location where we will be going if you believe all the reports. But hand on heart, if were I to choose, I would love for this to have that option of staying. I just don't think it's realistic with what we want to achieve and what we need to have really.
Let's set out what we know so far, what has been reported. It is understood that if Newcastle United do move, it will be to a city centre location, most likely into Leazes Park. But then you have all the planning kind of qualms that come with that. It will not be a quick job because you have to jump through lots of hoops, lots of different arguments and conversations and debates have to be had before anything gets signed off. But it is understood that if Newcastle move, it will most likely be to Leazes Park. Reportedly, staff was shown a video of what that new stadium could look like, and that was with Leazes Park as the new location. So, city centre, not too far away from St James's Park. There's been talks of costing as well. Well over £1 billion to build a new stadium, and you're looking at maybe £800 million to £1 billion to extend St James's Park to maybe 65,000 at most. And with St James's,
Not enough.
the issue is you've got the listed buildings, you've also got the fact that it's been extended a few times, and it would just probably not be cost effective to extend St James's Park for that amount of seats. And then, as you've just said there, Sam, 65,000 isn't enough. So that is why you are led then to move in to a new site where maybe you could push it to 70, 75.
Yeah. The Leazes Park kind of location is one that I kind of do feel comfortable about, because it's not going to change anyone's match day routine. You're not going to have to get on the metro anywhere outside of the city centre, or you've still got the hundreds of pubs, and including the Stack, of course, which I still haven't been to. But again, the club get my PSR contribution from the club shop, of which it was handsome. Yes, I do have the winners 25 shirt as well for me and my son. But yeah, the Leazes Park location seems sensible. Can we get to 70,000? One question I would like to know the answer to is how many of these are going to be corporate areas, these additional seats, I mean, in relation to what we've got in terms of them being made available to the fan base general. I completely understand there is a need for added corporate facilities. St James's Park hasn't got lots compared to its Premier League rivals. I get Wings, but that used to be the old sports bar anyway, didn't it? Back in the day. Yeah, how many additional seats are going to be made for people in the ballot every other week? So that's my kind of question, really. But yeah, the Leazes Park thing, whilst I'm like I just said there, I would prefer to stay at St James's. I understand that might not be wholly possible, and Leazes Park would be a sensible alternative as opposed to somewhere on the outskirts of the city, because it is still a city centre location. It's not going to change anyone's match day routine. And yeah, that kind of seems like a happy enough compromise.
You say you would prefer to stay at St James's Park, but am I right in thinking it's stay at St James's Park and expand? It's not stay at St James's Park and leave it at the current capacity.
You can't. That's just not an option anymore. And this is only going to happen once in our lifetime, isn't it? So, a new stadium and whatever. This is a one-time thing. So it's got to be done properly. Um, I just don't know how much we can eke out of St James's. Well, I love the place. I really do. I think it's as close to perfect stadium. Even like with it just works with the too big and the too small stands. I just love it to bits. But um, yeah, I just don't know how realistic it will be to as you say, you've got the listed buildings, you've got access to the hospital, and it's just an absolute planning minefield. So yeah, that's why I kind of came round to the idea of Leazes Park, and I'm not wholly kind of um completely shut off to the proposition of moving elsewhere. There was initially reports saying that it could overlap St James's, which I was a kind of fan of. But when you think about being at St James's Park, whilst were that to be renovated, where would you play? I mean, we've discussed this a little bit before. You'd have to go somewhere, and there's just nowhere else. realistically where Newcastle could play. Kingston Park is too small. Gateshead is too small. Darlington probably still a bit too. So, do you then go to Edinburgh or somewhere like that, or Glasgow? Maybe it's just crazy. Heaven forbid you would never go to down the A19, but yeah, it's just unrealistic. So that kind of location made sense, but yeah, it's not going to overlap, is it? I believe the current plans, but it's still close enough to, like I say, not change anyone's match day kind of ritual routine or anything like that.
Yeah, which is really good because you have the wider economy in the city, the bars and the pubs and the hotels and the restaurants, which all benefit from match day. And I think one thing is guaranteed that if they do move, it will be to a city centre location. And you mentioned there it's only going to happen once in our lifetime, Sam. So they've
Yeah.
got to get this right in terms of the decision, but also the look and the feel of a new stadium or indeed an expanded St James's Park. Do you look at the plans and the work that is going on in Saudi Arabia in terms of the stadiums they are looking to build for the World Cup and have full confidence and faith that whatever the decision, this is going to be a top class stadium up there at St James's Park or just behind it in Leazes Park?
I mean, I have to be honest. No, I don't take much notice of what's going on in Saudi Arabia in terms of their stadium development. I'm fully aware that they don't hang about, and they build kind of purpose-built stadiums for events which have now been taken down. So yeah, that's about far as mine. I don't keep an eye out. I'm not going to be partying in Saudi anytime soon, but I don't. It's one of them. This, as long as it's done properly, we're not in a rush to leave St James's, and this is still going to be years and years away. But before the move is actually made, so it's not a quick fix, whatever you do. But it's just such a delicate situation and such a finer point, and I get that there'll be loads of people out there that will be so adamant about not wanting to leave St James's, and I completely understand. But when you see teams like West Ham and Everton shortly moving in and have fantastic bigger attendances, don't forget when we expanded St James's, it was the second biggest in the Premier League. It was only Old Trafford that was bigger, but we're way, way, way down the list now, and other teams are announcing stadium expansions as well, the likes of Villa and everything. Wolves have got one ready to go should they, get back to kind of a more stable place in the Premier League. So, yeah, it is necessary that something is done. We can't stick around with 52,000, and yeah, I would be disappointed if the final attendance comes under 70. I've got to be honest. That would be yeah, I'd feel a bit shortchanged with that, because I don't think it would make that much of a difference. And that to me says that it would just be focused on commercial rather than the wider ticketing availability of the general fan base, because we all know, myself included, about the kind of nightmare these ballots have become.
Well, that's why I think you're one of the ideal people to get an opinion of on this matter, and everyone's got their opinion, everyone's entitled to it. But I'm really intrigued to get the opinion of someone like yourself who travels up to St James's Park when they get luck with a ticket, which hasn't been too often in your case. No luck in the ballot. The demand outstrips what they can offer fans in terms of seats. So it's really intriguing to hear you. You would prefer to stay at St James's Park for a lesser capacity than a new stadium. I just find that quite an interesting kind of point of view.
Well, it depends. What would the final number be on staying at St James's, and what would it achieve? Would it be achieving more kind of rooms for you to do talk-ins to before the game, or would it be to satisfy the people in those ballots? That there was. I only went to Brentford at home on Wednesday night, but because Carl from Newcastle Fans TV, his partner is a bit poorly at the moment, so he's snowed under looking after children. So most of the time I get to games because I'm ready and available, and I'm not working, and I can sort childcare. It's all very last minute. I think the only ballot I've won this season would be going in the sensory room with my son. So um, yeah, it's an absolute nightmare, and there'll be so many people that have been in every ballot this season and not got lucky once. So it's a huge issue. So the need. With the whole supply and demand argument, you would need in excess of 70,000, I would imagine.
And no fear from you that if they built a 75, let's even say 80,000 seater stadium, that some of the fears from some fans of it being not full for certain games, there's no fear that that would happen. You think it would sell out if it was a 75, 80,000 seater stadium? It would sell out every single game?
Well, you've pushed up my numbers there, haven't you, to ask that question? Do I think we need an 80,000? That's probably a touch on the high side. Um, I
Okay,
mean,
75, 70 sells out, does it?
yeah, I would imagine so. More often than not, I would, unless there's a few midweek games here and there that aren't overly, like, for example, the Brentford didn't bring a whole host of people with them on Wednesday, did they? They barely filled two blocks. Well, they didn't fill two blocks in the away end, and that's another thing you would have to kind of rectify as well, because I mean it's hilarious how we've got away with it for so long in putting the away fans where they are at St James's Park. I think it's so funny, but yeah, they would obviously have to have a little corner or something in a lower tier, should we build a new stadium. So that's another argument. So the vast, all of the upper tier would more than likely then turn into be your level sevens of this world and family and areas and whatnot. But I don't know. I'd still say if it was 70,000, you would still get a very, very close to 100% sellout rate. Sure.
Let us know in the comments your thoughts. And we mentioned there the work that is going on in Saudi surrounding those stadiums that they're building. Obviously, the other half of Newcastle's ownership is the Rubens property developers. They own a lot of property, and they've
Yes,
also
they
got
do.
Roger Thornton has joined the board as well. So the people are involved here have got experience in big projects, which again I think will reassure fans that whatever the decision, they've got the right people at the head of the table to carry on these projects to the end and to a really high standard.
Yeah, they're not here to muck about, and that's been evident since day one, really. So yeah, I do have faith in the people that have been appointed, and um, I think they will do right by a business side of things. Are they as aware of the emotional side of things? I think they've learned. Obviously, no Amanda Mirdad, who was that kind of face of that side of the ownership, um, probably is slightly detrimental not having them around. But I think, given how long it's been now, a good few years since the takeover, that they know what they're dealing with in terms of the fan base. So yeah, I would hold more confidence in what these guys do, and were it to be like the Mike Ashleys of this world, who will just probably try and do everything on the cheap. But yeah, it'll be done properly, and like you say, well, like we said, this is a once in a lifetime venture that will be passed down the generations. So it's so important, and it's so important to get right.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned there that kind of the emotional side of things, because we've mentioned the cost. It has to be cost effective. I think that's a very good approach to take, because the bottom line of all of this is that it's about creating enough revenue to make sure the club can grow and continue to strengthen when it comes to the squad and other avenues as well.
Yeah.
And I think they will get it right. I think they will handle the decision and making that public. I think that's what they have to get right. Obviously, the decision is the important thing, but actually getting it out to the public is really, really important, because you are right. A lot of hearts are going to break if indeed the decision is to move away from St James's Park. So how they handle that is going to be crucial. But I back them to do that. But I think having that business head's not a bad thing, because we are football is a world that is sadly built on money and built on business, and you can't let yourself get distracted if you are the people making those decisions. You can't let yourself get too distracted by the emotional side of things, because then you might end up making the wrong decision here or there. I think it's good that they have people who are kind of focused on making those difficult and clinical decisions that need to be made without getting all teary-eyed and misty. I mean, leave that up to us, the fans, to bring that emotion. Of course, it's important that they have a small element of that, but I think the business side is really crucial to have people there who can just make these decisions.
Yeah, but the football side is equally important because, I mean, heaven forbid it all does go completely wrong in the next couple of years, then no, you're probably not going to fill a 70,000 seat stadium week in, week out. But there's obviously no signs of that anytime soon. We're still very much on the up, and we've got the monkey off our back, and we won a trophy. We won a trophy. It's ridiculous. My word. So it could well be the start of a dynasty at Newcastle United. Who knows how we follow this up? But I mean, it probably depends on which European competition we'll be playing next season. But yeah, it's tremendously exciting in one sense. There is a side of things where if they announce Lees's Park and 65,000, I would feel that is a bit of a cop out. But it's going to take so long. I mean, we were initially thought we were going to be told of plans in January, February. Here we are in April, and we've heard next to nothing on the official channels anyway. So I was just left wondering what the kind of hold up is in this preliminary stage. Are they trying to finalize an official, like a kind of attendance capacity with an architect, or a potential design to show the fan base? But I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting next few months.
But we'd love to know what is happening. We would love to know as soon as possible. But it's
But
such a
you're the
big
journalist.
decision.
Go and find out.
No one's saying anything. They're sticking to their guns. We said early 2025, and that's what they're sticking to. And we are obviously now in April. But I think also you've
Well,
had
we're
the cup
getting towards
final.
mid 2025.
Yeah, but you've had the cup final, so I think it's understandable. It's probably been pushed back a little bit because of that. But I think, given it's such a big decision, speaking as a fan and as a journalist, I don't think it's the worst thing for it not to have been confirmed yet if they're not fully agreed on what they're
Yeah,
going to do. There's no point rushing this decision, because, as we've said, there, it's more than just a decision. It's about then how you communicate that, and then it's the next step. So if we have to wait until June, for example, for the answer, which I don't think we will do, but if we have to, I'm not going to be kicking up a fuss, because I got full faith in those making the decision that there's a reason for it, and that they've taken their time and they've not just jumped in. And it's such, as you say, a once in a lifetime kind of job and project that, yeah, let them take as much time as they want to get to the decision that they're going to communicate, because they can't get it wrong. In terms of the atmosphere, because that is one of the big fears from people, Sam, and you've kind of alluded to it on Wednesday. You were looking around, and there was times against Brentford when the atmosphere was really good, players flying into tackles, and the crowd getting right behind them. And I've seen a lot of people talk about this soulless ball that might emerge on Lees's Park. But for me, I think it's all down to the fans. I think it's down to the fans to, if indeed they do move, to come into that new stadium and just sing their hearts out like they do every single game at St James's Park. It's the voices that matter, not necessarily the bricks and the seats and what have you. That's not the important thing. It's about the passion of the fans, and they will bring that. And I've got no fear that if they do move, the atmosphere, and yes, it might take a few months, maybe a couple of years, but it will become what we've known to love at St James's Park. It will be a horrendous place for people to visit.
Mm, uh, I don't know.
But tell me then, like, because I see that these fears communicated on social media, and I might be being a bit naive and a bit ignorant, but I just don't see how moving to a new stadium, as long as it's not built like the West Ham one, where you've got that track and you're really far back.
Well, no, because that wasn't built to be a football
Yeah.
stadium, and
So
it's still it's not a football stadium. It's
it,
it's an
it,
outdoor arena.
yeah, exactly. So the new stadium, if it is going to be that, it's going to be nothing like that. It's probably going to be like the Everton or the Tottenham one. I I I get not moving from St James's Park because of the history and the way it looks and the way it feels when you walk in. It's wonderful. I love walking past it every day when I come into
Yeah,
this office,
I
and I love
still
going to matches.
feel like that butterflies in your stomach, that kind of
Yeah,
childhood kind of every single time, and you'd think it'd wear off and get old, but it just doesn't.
but is that are the two things that closely aligned? Like the way it looks and the history and the feeling of it. Is that why we're such a passionate fan base? Because I look at these fears on social media and I think it shouldn't really matter where we call home. We're still going to support the lads. We're still going to support the lasses. It shouldn't matter where we call home, should it?
No, but I think there will have to be a degree of organisation when that day finally comes and season tickets are on sale, to kind of new season ticket members, and existing ones have to choose their seat in the new stadium. I think there will have to be a bit of organisation, a bit like there was for Wembley, really, whether it's from Nust or War Flags or whatever. That if you want to sing and shout and stand, then this is the bit for you. If you want to sit and just watch the match, then that's the area for you, sort of thing over there. Um, I think there would have to be a degree of organisation, because otherwise you're just all a bit spread out and it's a bit muddling, really. So I think with the right organisation, then yes, an atmosphere will be generated very, very brightly and very quickly. But again, that's another thing. If they get it wrong, then it could. I mean, Arsenal are only getting a half decent atmosphere now, and how long have they been in the Emirates for? Sure, it's like knocking on 20 years, isn't it?
It's been a
Um,
wee while, hasn't it?
I mean that can't happen. I mean, we're the kind of fan base to do it properly, but it'll take a little bit of organising, I think. But I mean, it worked at Wembley this time, didn't it?
Yeah, so no reason why it couldn't work in a brand new stadium. Look, my viewpoint on it has changed. I was dead set against moving when it was first, touted, wanting to stay at St James's Park. I would have said stay at St James's Park even if you don't add any more seats on it, because it's that feeling when you walk into the ground, that feeling when you drive over one of the many bridges and you see it there standing on top of the hill. But as time's gone on and I look at the financial restrictions and Newcastle needing to make every revenue stream count, I see moving to a new stadium is such a benefit, not just for the current day team and club and setup, but for future generations as well. And I think moving to a new stadium is crucial to the future success and the long term success of Newcastle United. And they've got to get it right. I don't envy the person making that decision, but my mindset has totally shifted. It had to be city centre. It looks like it's going to be city centre. I am definitely in the camp of moving now, making sure that we can hit all them revenue streams, reinvest that back into the playing staff and the club, and just help continue Newcastle United on this long term path to consistent success.
What would you do with St James's Park then?
Well, they don't own the land, so it's going to have to go back into council hands anyway.
They
Um,
own the land over the road, and no one has asked what they're doing with it, because there is work underway, isn't there? It's
yeah,
all
it's nothing.
cordoned off.
It's nothing to do with the stadium. Um, it's to do with drainage work, and then there is it's going to be kind of a chance to set up sponsors and stalls and get and stuff is what I've been led to believe. So nothing to
Right.
do with any expansion of said St James's Park, but it's to
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of enhance the match day experience is what I've been led to believe. When it
No, I get,
comes
I
down
get
to it.
it. Wouldn't have anything to do with an expansion to St James's, but yeah, it's an interesting. It's just interesting because it's a kind of key bit of space, really, isn't it? That could lend itself to something useful. But I don't know. I don't know. I just think it'd be very sad to see St James's Park not there, and whether I don't know what would you do? Would you? I don't know. I don't know. It's
I mean, could you change it into? Could you? I mean, it looks now, according to reports, that St James's Park won't be impacted as they build this new stadium if they do move. So, could
yeah.
you then do something with St James's Park where it becomes a sporting arena or a gig arena? I mean, you know, you look across the road at Gateshead where they're meant to be building this new arena, and that doesn't look like it's going to be happening. There's funding issues and stuff. You know, could that be something that
Yeah,
could be turned
that's
into?
a good show. That's a good show. Yeah, obviously we had that thing after the final, like Limp Bizkit were playing Wembley Arena next door to the stadium. So I don't quite know what they made of all these crying Geordies that were filtering out of the stadium when they're trying to. Well, they're looking forward to listening to Rolling. But yeah, it's a good shout actually because the utility is a bit out of the way, isn't it? And it's not wholly in and I mean, it's still kind of just about city centre ish, but it's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? Yeah, that's not a bad shout. Utility could certainly do with holding a few more. The only kind of alternative I thought was. Is it like a baby stadium? Oh, say baby, a mini kind of stadium? Would you maybe get rid of the top tier section or something and have it all leveled off and a potential stadium for the women and the academy sides or something like that? I don't know, but it would certainly be yeah, tugging at the old heartstrings there to see it anything happen to it, which
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
going to.
heaven forbid if it was to be knocked down, which I sadly think might actually be what would happen to it. You'd probably have more than 300,000 people on the streets to watch the first bowler go into one of the stands, to be quite honest. And it would be one of those where were you moments. But that's, you know, well down the line.
Kind of
But yeah,
like the
maybe.
Wembley Stadium when like there was kind of live television coverage of the old kind of two towers
Hmm.
of Wembley being knocked down. Uh, I'm a stickler for old school stadiums as well. I would have loved to see them have been kind of part of the new build of Wembley instead of an arch. Which yes, it's a bit dull, but on the other hand, the arch in black and white did look very fetching the other week.
It certainly did. But I think the interesting thing about the stadium and that land, Sam, is that I would assume, this is just me making an assumption, is that if Newcastle build on Leazes Park, then where St James's Park is will probably replace the land, so to speak, and then that will probably become a public park, and that's where they kind of offset the loss of land. Because look, a lot of people care more about Leazes Park than they do St James's Park, and that's totally fine because football doesn't matter to everyone as much as it does to you and I and people watching and listening to this. And this is really, really important for me, Sam, that everybody's voice is heard. That it
Yeah, do
isn't
you know?
just assumed Newcastle can just go and do it. And I don't think they assume that's the case. I think everybody's opinion, whether you're a Newcastle fan or whether you're, like I say, a bigger fan of Leazes Park and you don't care about the football, it's really important that everybody is heard on this.
Yeah, and I think there will be. And to be
Yeah.
honest, if that happens, then I wouldn't be against it. You can't beat a good tree. So having that as parkland, yeah, great, fine, no problem with that whatsoever. Brilliant. And I think people will be heard. Otherwise, they would have just gone all out on building 100,000 completely massive complex on the town wall because it's chuffing massive. And you know. Eddie Howe is a freeman of the city, as is Shaka Hislop. They can perfectly legally take their cattle to graze anywhere they see fit around Newcastle upon Tyne. So whatever. But yeah, the town more. You could have really gone to town on a whole complex around there, couldn't you? But that again is another logistical nightmare. But yeah, the Leazes Park thing, I think they could do something nice with it. But yeah, I think everyone will be heard, but I don't think that should be discounted as, the club put out the surveys, but at the end of the day, they're still pretty much going to do what they want to do.
In your opinion. Is there a design that you like the look of in terms of another stadium across Europe or anywhere on the globe that you think, yeah, I wouldn't mind calling that home? Or if not, what would you like it to look like? We certainly don't want it looking like the circus tent at Old Trafford, and will look like in a few
Oh
years'
no,
time.
no, and I don't think that. Well, yeah, claims that are running that looks perfectly apt for Manchester United, but I don't tend to like new stadiums, as I've kind of hinted to on many times before. My favourite away days are the old school grounds. However, um, I bloody love Dortmund. And yeah, that if we could kind of get a black and white wall behind one of the goals to replicate instead, like, to be the new kind of Gallagher end or something like that, I think that would yeah, that'd be a bit of me. I don't like the look of these kind of new funky bubble bowl things. um I don't know. I think there's, especially with St James's Park and its color scheme, which some would say it's a bit dull with it just being kind of like a two-tone grey kind of thing. I think it looks so smart, and that's one of my favourite things about it. I think it looks so it's really smart. Um, but in terms of design, look, I'm no architect, so yeah, my favourite ground that I've been to aside from St James is Dortmund's. So and I know we heard rumblings after that game in Dortmund, didn't they, that the club hierarchy were really kind of keen to kind of get involved with talks with the Dortmund hierarchy and learn about their facilities and how they do things. Yeah, the complex around the Signal Iduna is yeah, is really good.
Well, there we have it. If you've got any suggestions, ladies and gents, of any stadiums that are currently built that you would like to maybe see Newcastle United pinch their look off, then do let us know in the comments. Come on then, Sam. Just to sign off, give us your final summing up. Where are you standing or sitting as you are on St James's Park? Stay or go?
If we can get St James's Park to 70,000, I would stay. Realistically, though, that's probably not going to happen. So to get a 70,000 odd seater stadium, you would have to move. That's as close to a definitive answer as I'm going to give you. Um, because I love St James's Park dearly. However, I appreciate the need to kind of go on and expand. And whatever happens, if we can expand St James's, I'm happy as Larry. If we can't, and that's just realistically not, if it's completely unviable, then I am okay with moving to Lees's Park because of its close proximity to where we currently play. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I won't be joining any protests, put it that way. But yeah, no, if it was going to be headed way out of the city, then I would have a serious issue with that. So yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable with the Lees's Park idea.
Well, there we have it. Let us know in the comments your feelings on it, ladies and gents. Stay or go. We are really wanting to hear what your view is on it. This is from the Everything is Black and White podcast, sponsored by NordVPN. Thank you, as always, for tuning in.
Still,
Thank you. Still.
oh good. I haven't been gone that long then. We've still got Nord. Good, good. I'm glad we've still got Nord
Still
kicking
got
about.
Nord, the very best protection for your devices out there. Prices, Sam, start at just £2.30 per month, with an extra 4 months on board your plan as well.
I mean,
Wonderful value, and you get protected, and you support the podcast. What's not to love, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. What? Yeah, thanks, Nord.
So make sure you sign up. Links in the podcast description box. Great to have Sam back on the show, and we'll be back next week. We'll be back into the swing of things, won't we, Sam? Because we will return with our show of talking points about the weekend as a whole across the world of football. So I'm looking back to getting that back on the table, back on the agenda. So look out for that
Yes,
one next week, ladies and gents. Hopefully on the back of Newcastle beating Leicester and continuing their march
I am
towards
there.
Champions League football.
I
He's
am. I
there.
am
Look for
there.
that.
I am there for Leicester because, fortunately for me, Carl's partner is still ill.
We wish you all the best, though, don't we?
Absolutely, Charles. I hope you get better very, very quickly. But yes, I will be
Look
at
at that.
Leicester.
Shameless. Thank you, Sam, for coming back onto the podcast. Thank you to you guys watching and listening. And we will see you guys very soon.